happy
Tuesday
what's
it
that? What day? I
is.
was about to say another day. I was about to say Friday.
Tuesday it
It is
is.
absolutely not Friday. We are closer to last Friday than we are to this Friday, but it's all good. It's still a great Tuesday. Um, and all of that. Hey fam, how you doing? As you all are coming on in, where are you coming in from? We're here in New Jersey. Let us know in the comments. And for those of you who may be joining us for the very first time, we come on every single Tuesday, for the most part, around this time, 12
I would
noon
say every single Tuesday.
EST. And we call this what? OL and Sway Show, Legacy Live. We don't even have a
I don't
name
even know if
for
we have
it.
a name for it
I don't
yet.
even know if we have a name for it, but know this: as marriedpreneur life, we're going to be talking about all things marriage, marketplace, and ministry every single Tuesday right here on this station, wherever
Not
you
all
are,
those not all those headings,
one at a
but
time.
over the course of time, we'll touch on each one of
It's going to
those.
be one of those.
Yeah,
It may be more than one at the same time.
could be.
Anyway, you get the point, right? So maybe y'all can help us out with calling, giving us a show name because we just come on and that's what we're doing. So, with that being said, this may be your very first time joining us. And if so, we're glad you are here. If you are returning, we're glad that you are here as well. But let's just do a real quick intro.
What's up? I'm OL Buckley.
And I'm Sway Buckley.
That's right. We are Marriedpreneur Life Strategist.
Yes. And married entrepreneurs come to us to sync high level systems with laser clear strategy to build out their business legacy and to do so purposefully, powerfully, and profitably in sync. So, if that's you, or if that is what you're aspiring to do as a couple, then you are absolutely in the right place. And I want to say this too, because sometimes, we get lots of questions. Well, I may not be in business with my spouse, or, we're doing this in this season and we have two different businesses. So, let me just break it down for you really quickly. What we've realized, there are three main primary, I would say primary marriedpreneur types, and you may find that you fit in one or more of these. And so there's a spousalpreneur, marriedpreneur type where one spouse is the entrepreneur
That's
and
right.
the other spouse is building the business.
The other type is indiepreneurs, and this is
Mhm.
where the two of you are building individual businesses.
And then we have the couplepreneur. And couplepreneurs is when you two or both spouses are building the business together. So those are like the primary types, and there's all these different things within that, different subsets, I guess you would call it. But just to say that, because not every there's like no two marriedpreneur couples that are exactly the same. And that is a great segue into what I'm about to say next. Before we go into what we're talking about today, which is all about dreaming big, but starting with baby steps. Before we get into that piece right there, and it's good. Let me tell you what's good. I'm going to tell you it's good because these are lots of questions that we've been answering lately that I believe are going to be a great encouragement to you all who are here watching or watching the replay as well. Speaking of watching or watching the replay, especially if you're on one of these platforms where you can press share, you can go ahead and press share. You can share this encouragement. And if you're not, if you're like on IG, you can go ahead and tag another marriedpreneur couple or spouse that you would know would want this encouragement as well. But real quick, we are the host of the Marriedpreneur Life podcast, right?
That's right.
On that podcast, we do talk also everything marriage, marketplace, ministry.
Yes, we do.
Yes. And the latest episode, for those of you who are in a demanding 9 to 5 and who are looking for some very practical but powerful tips to continue building and to stay encouraged and to start seeing some results, we want to encourage you to check out that latest episode. And that's on the Marriedpreneur Life podcast. You can find it on marriedpreneurlife.com. You can go to the link in the bio. You can go to your favorite podcasting platform, any of the above. You can do that. Take a listen, be encouraged on this journey. Okay. And then also, in addition to that, we've created a couple of actually free different types of systems downloads for married entrepreneurs. So if you're on this marriedpreneur journey and you're needing insight on how to actually start implementing systems or have a checklist for you all to follow as you're doing that, whether it's on the profitability side or the productivity side, we got you covered. So just drop systems, the word systems, in the comments, or you can send it to our DMs to make sure we see that, and then we'll get you the proper one that makes the most sense for you. Okay, with that being said, I think we should dive right into the big dream. Start with baby steps.
Yes.
Oh, you wait for me. I just did a whole bunch of talking.
You did just do a bunch of talking.
I mean,
so when we think about baby steps, or let me back up, when we think about big dreams, big dreams can definitely be like much like working out, much like going into the gym, in that a lot of times we because we're often taught to start with the end in mind, so we have this picture in our head of what we want to feel like, what we want to look like, what we want to accomplish. And what happens is that we go in with that picture in mind, but we don't see all of the many steps in front of it. Now, I mean, we know we gotta go to the gym, we gotta put our sneakers on, we gotta lace them up, and we gotta go out and get started. What we don't realize is that there's all kinds of things that are happening to our bodies as we're working out. So I know for us, when we started working out earlier this year, and when I say started working out, I mean with greater consistency
Yes.
and very in a very systematic way, in a very disciplined way. You start discovering that you're going to get sore, and you're going to get sore a lot of times in places and in areas that you didn't know that you had muscles. So you start getting sore, and what happens is you could either stop as a result of the soreness, or you could continue in light of the soreness, not overextending yourself to injury, but continuing even in spite of being sore. And what happens is that you got to make adjustments, because as you start building muscles, you're challenging those muscles, you're going to get sore. So you're going to start doing other exercises, and you're going to be like, whoa, this is very difficult for me to do right now because my body's tender. I'm so sore. Well, just because you're sore, it doesn't mean that you stop. What it means is that you keep going, and as you keep going, you realize, or you'll discover rather, that you won't be as sore as you were before. But anytime you're stepping into a new space, you're scaling, you're growing, and you're going into it to an area, there's something happening to your body, but there's also something happening to you as a person. And so as your body changes, you as a person are changing, and your body's becoming stronger, but you're becoming more disciplined. Same principles are happening as you two, as marriedpreneurs, are building the business together.
This is true. I say that. Well, you said that because we were talking about this a little bit before we went live, just about how many times couples will know, like that God has called you to build there's a vision, and the vision is bigger than, of course, where you are and who you are right now, because you have to grow into that vision. And that sounds all exciting and ready to go and all that great stuff. But then by the time we're having these conversations with couples, they're worn out and drained and disappointed because they've stopped because of the soreness that they feel, not realizing that the soreness is a part of the process of that growth. And then they misinterpreted that soreness to be a sign, a signal to say, oh, we're on the right track, or we shouldn't even be doing this. And they
Wrong
allow
track, you meant.
No, I was saying the soreness says that they misinterpreted
Yeah.
the soreness to say that they're on the wrong track.
Yeah, but you said to say that they're on the right track.
Oh, got it. Oh, got it. Thank you. So yes, everybody got that. So the whole point of this is really just to be encouraging. We want to shed some light on the big dreams, and understanding how you accomplish them. You get them started with the baby steps, right? You get them started, but then you continue going on. So we wanted to bring you a few things that we have and continue to implement, as well as that we share with our clients, our marriedpreneur clients, as they're building as well too. And this is really important, especially, I mean, whenever any couple comes to work with us, this is like one of the first things that we walk them through, this process of understanding these principles, regardless of what area you're called to build in. Maybe you're more so focusing on a nonprofit or a ministry in the ecclesiastical sense, or maybe in an actual business in the marketplace, as marketplace ministry, right? It doesn't even matter like what that calling is. What we're talking about are true principles and pillars that will encourage you and really have you thinking rightly concerning the path that is before you. So these are things that you want to continue to check, like on an ongoing basis, in order to stay on the same page and to stay moving forward, growing forward, going forward, and growing forward. And so the first item that we want to go over with you is your expectations. Making sure that your expectations are truly healthy and I'm not saying that they have to shrink down, But what I am saying, they can actually stay big, but they must be bendable. They must be flexible as you're going, because many times we'll have expectations on how is it going to happen. Oh, it has to happen this way, or when is it going to happen? Oh, it's going to happen in this timeline, or how much is it going to cost? Sacrificially speaking, how much? What is it going to require of you to do, to not do, to who do you need to become in order to actually walk that vision out? And that's for both of you. And that's, when we talk about marriage, there's one thing to talk about as one person, but then you talk about this transformation process going on as a married couple, that just adds another layer of, I would say, excitement.
Excitement and complexity. Yeah, the
Yeah.
thing about your expectations is they have to be they have to be um expectations really need two things. They need to be how do I want to say this, reasonable while at the same time challenging. And so
Mm,
finding that delicate balance,
that's good.
right? So we're not talking about I'm going to, you know, swim across the Atlantic tomorrow if you haven't been swimming or exercising. See, that's challenging, but that's not reasonable. So it
Hmm.
has to be reasonable, in essence, count the cost, but it also needs to challenge you in your areas of discipline.
Hmm.
And when you talk about building and doing that as a married couple, then that means two of you are going to have to embrace this new reality that, hey, we need to step up in, you know, this area, that area, and so forth, as we
Hmm.
challenge ourselves to become more disciplined individuals.
Yeah, and one of the ways that we do that, we've talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it now. And guess what? We're going to keep talking about it, and that is, it's a very simple thing, but it requires another level of that discipline, which is having these daily legacy meetings. These daily legacy meetings for us, it can be, good 10-15 minutes. They are strategic in that they are connected to the annual legacy meetings as business owners and as a married couple, right? And so when we have this, then what we're able to do is make sure, help each other, hold each other accountable to stay on the same page with our expectations. Because 9 times out of 10, well, I would say 10 times out of 10, life is going to happen. Life is going to life. Life is going to life, and people going to people. And these are things that are just going to happen that we oftentimes cannot make margin for if we don't know what that looks like. But the only way we can make margin for it is in our hearts. While we have the expectation, but we also say we know that life is going to happen and people are going to people, and things are just, there are things that are not going to go according to like exactly the plan, and it's okay, because it still will happen if this is what God will called you all to do, but it may happen in a different way, and it's going to happen in His timing. And so just understanding that process is critical. So that's the first thing I would say, to make sure that we're checking, is keeping our expectations in check. Okay. Next is that we're checking is the expansion of our capacity. Hey, Jazz. People gonna people. You know that's right, girl. Yes. Check, the expansion of our capacity. Okay, this is like two things. We were talking earlier about this, and I was like, what I realized when we talk to couples and they're like, okay, well, I want to do this, and this, and they have the all these different things going on in their heads, which ultimately means that they're not able to be they're not able to perform at the highest level in the one thing, in the main thing right now, right? And so what happens is, there is often that's used as a pattern many times to procrastinate doing what you really need to be doing, because there are so many things that sound good, that feel good, that look good, but may not be good for you right now. And so being able to discern between, okay, is this something that I'm just using as a comfort, like people eat comfort food when they're going through, or they're, trying not to think about stuff or try to make themselves feel better. We as marriedpreneurs can do the same thing, but it may not be in the form of comfort food, but it's in the form of our habits, our belief patterns that we have. So when we are having the talk about like the capacity, it's either one or two things. Either your capacity is totally full and you just have to re-examine some things and offload, maybe delegate or outsource in some way to make some space for you to make that deposit and invest in what you're building in your business. Or on the other side, that's the, practical side, and being full. You're just full and you need to rearrange some things. That requires discipline as well. That's for a whole nother life. But then on the other side, either your capacity is full, or your capacity, or you're keeping your capacity full because you are fearful. And so it's either full because practically this is what's going on, or you're fearful and you're adding things to your plate because you want to avoid the stretching. We talked about stretching at the beginning when, working out, when you're sore in your muscles. It's really the breakdown of your muscles, so they're being rebuilt. And that is an uncomfortable process. I remember when you did, I don't know how many of those squats you did with the bell.
Mm-hmm.
And the next couple of days, he was like trying to get in the bed. Our bed is pretty high up. And all I could hear was him moaning like, oh, and I was like, what is wrong? He was like, those squats, but his muscles were being rebuilt. His muscles were being built up. It wasn't that he was supposed to stop and like never do squats again, but they were just being rebuilt over that process during that workout. So
because I tore him down.
Because you tore him down. See, woof.
Yeah.
This whole process of growing, it really will require you to tear down some things of who you are to rebuild who you need to become.
Well, what happens is that, this is, when you're working out and you're challenging those muscles, you're tearing those muscle fibers, not in a injurious way, but you're tearing those muscle fibers. And then what happens is that as you rest and recover, those fibers are built back up. And when they come back stronger. They come back bigger, excuse me. And so, well, stronger too. And so that's working out over the course of time. It's the same thing when you're building a business and you're going through, the process of doing that. If you're not, to your point, if you're not ready for that, if you're afraid of the soreness, if you're afraid of the temporary discomfort, then you really don't want the long-term payoff.
That's what you're saying.
That's what you're saying.
So there's this cognitive dissonance going on because you're saying one thing that you want.
And that's,
you're not backing it up with the actions.
And there's all kinds of results that come from that, without going too far into it. But that's really wanting the payoff, but not the pain in the process, or the temporary pain in the process, is really trying to cheat the system. You're trying to short circuit the system. You're trying to attain something as you are building this business, but you're like, I don't want to go through these discomforts. And that's just not going to be in line with that big dream you say that you had, and not recognizing that, hey, part of the expectation is there's going to be discomfort here. And if we have to be willing to do that. So yeah, there's that.
Willing to shift our mindsets as well too. Like just changing how we're thinking about taking the steps. So that's that. Okay, another area that we want to be mindful of, to be checking as we're talking about big dreams start with baby steps, is this. You want to be checking your existing wealth roles. I say this because seasons change. I've said this before. We're going to keep saying it. Seasons change, and in one season we may be very clear about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and who's doing what in order for us to bring about the desired goal, right? But then guess what? Seasons shift and they change. Something happens, and it doesn't have to be like a big change, like you move from one city to the next, or a job or anything like that. It can be internally, things are changing on the inside, and you are realizing how you are changing, and this shifts even your season just internally. Regardless if it's an internal, external change, seasons change. Seasons come and seasons go. What happens oftentimes is, if we're not aware, many times couples are not aware that the season has just changed. And so then they're living and building off of the last season's, I was going to say like rules or rules of engaging, right? And so when we do that, but the seasons have changed, it doesn't work the same way anymore. The grace has lifted to do a certain thing. And one season you have your grace to do a thing, and then that's a big sign that a season is changing. Another season, you try to do the same thing and it feels like you're lifting a ton, when before it felt like you were just lifting a pencil, right? It just feels like so heavy, and it's the same exact thing, but the seasons change. So checking in on those existing wealth roles and shifting them as they come. I know you're trying to say something.
Yeah, as you were saying, it was just reminding me, growing up, I used to hear people say, there's this expression that they had back in the 80s, when a person would dress a certain way that was like a decade or 2 decades ago, or a whole generation ago. They would say, oh, he's stuck in the time zone, or oh, she's stuck in a time zone. And what happens is that sometimes we get stuck in a time zone or in a previous season. It would be like, me at the point I am in life, trying to recapture the days of my junior and senior year of high school. It wouldn't look right. And so there's a difference for marriedpreneurs between awkward and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if I was lifting weights and I had improper form,
Yeah.
it would be awkward me trying to do whatever that motion is
Mm-hmm.
because my form is awkward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
However, I could have the right form
Mm-hmm.
and it still be uncomfortable. What I'm getting at is we can be trying to bring over the routine of comfort from a previous season, and
Yeah.
it's awkward in this season, but we might
Listen.
call it uncomfortable.
Oof.
And that's that. See, discomfort with the right
Sleep on
form
that.
builds,
Yeah.
but when but awkwardness with the wrong form injures. And God's
Mm.
not, putting this before you, giving you this new season as you to build to be injured.
No, right. That part.
He is giving it to you to be uncomfortable.
Mm.
And so you got to ask yourself, am I uncomfortable or is this awkward? Am I trying to
Mm.
force something or am I just
Mm.
being challenged at the next level?
Yeah, that's so good because you know what? There's no true growth that comes out of the comfort zone. And if we find ourselves for an extended amount of times in our just a comfort zone where we are not being stretched, we are not growing, then that's something that we want to pay attention to. So this is why we're going through this today. And the last area that we would say definitely want to check, because we're talking about big dreams, start with baby steps, is to examine your tracking. Examine your tracking.
Mhm.
Now, this means whatever that goal is, whatever those numbers are, right? We're talking about a business. We're talking about the impact that you desire to have. Whatever that measurement or that metric is, be clear on that. And then follow the tracking, because what happens is when you do that, when you gather data to see like what's working, what isn't working, you're able to look back and to say, okay, this area over here, this is what was really that's what really what brings the most bang for the buck, or most increase, or the biggest results, whatever that may be. Or this over here, we need to either eliminate that or we need to tweak that. But how are we even going to know what is what if we don't even know what's what? Right. So just being clear about where you are now, and where you desire to go, being clear about, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times we have combos with couples building businesses, and we start asking about just basic goals for the rest of the year, right? Like, what is your goal for your business for the rest of the year? What does that look like financially? What does that look like time wise? What does that look like for your marriage and how you're feeling and what you would have accomplished? Like, what does that look like? And there are so many more than not that don't have that clear understanding. And that doesn't mean you have to know the how, but at least it's starting with like what it is, or understand, okay, this is the desired goal. This is what we're working towards. Because if you don't have a clear goal of what you're working towards, then how are you going to know where to aim? How are you going to know if you're aiming in the right direction? How are you going to know how to read the data of your life, like your lifestyle, the thing that we are called to steward, the thing that we are called to number our days? Like, how are we going to do well with this? Like, right, this is time is a gift. And this is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about systems and strategies and understanding like how to implement them into your marriedpreneur lifestyle, because we have to give an account for how we spend our time, and making sure that we are giving it our best. And that oftentimes looks different from maybe what we're doing on the day in and day out basis, right? So just being clear about what that is. But and guess what? If you're in alignment with what your goal is, then that's great. But you're going to know that because you have something that's holding you accountable, which is your tracking. And that tracking is gold. And I would say, lastly, as a bonus, before we get up out of here, because we got to go eat lunch, and we're gonna eat good. What you say? Read the data of your life. Yes, Jazz. Read the data of your life. And so here's the bonus. We're saying all this sounds all good and great and gravy, right? But here's the thing, you're going to have to give each other and yourselves, receive the grace and give the grace that's necessary on this learning curve, because it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't, you don't just wake up and just, you are in track and in alignment with all the things that you're supposed to be doing. But it is a process. And as you continue to give and give grace to your spouse and receive the grace for your own self as well, then what happens is you're really positioning yourselves to enjoy the journey, enjoy all of the hiccups, enjoy knowing that life is going to happen. It's going, like I said before, life is going to life, people going to people, but really being able to enjoy it regardless, and understand and expect expect the hurdles, expect those things to come and try to, throw you off or even distract you in that. Like, expect that to happen, because that's just a part of the process, and versus it throwing you all the way off emotionally, and then it's taking you a while to get back in and get your head together. Like that we know by now, we should know by now that life is going to keep life, and it's going to keep happening. And so just being really clear and having a healthy outlook on receiving the grace and then giving the grace to each other.
I think the same thing that is essential in marriage as it pertains to the relationship is the exact same thing that is essential for marriedpreneurs. So it's not like, oh, we're marriedpreneurs, so we have a different set of rules of engagement from our marriage.
Yeah, no.
They're just a carryover to you two building the business together. And I think the number one way to enjoy the journey together is to walk humbly with one another.
That's what Micah said.
So if we can't, or if we won't, I'm not even gonna say can't, if we won't be humble towards one another, then it makes the journey that much more difficult and unhappy, and even can just foster an atmosphere of misery. And so walking humbly with one another, that's the grace that you're mentioning. Because if we don't give that to each other, then we'll just breed resentment within one another. And we could even build a business to a degree, to an extent of success, but we'll be cheating it of its true potential and who we become through the process, because we're not doing that. And so, we're in business together, but we're married. And so we want to be humble towards one another as it pertains to all these items we just laid out.
Yeah. And I just want to say this too. You said in business together, but I know there are also many couples who are not necessarily in business together. And that may mean we also have separate businesses, but we're still in business together.
Right. Well, we're in business. I just
want to clarify that.
No, that's perfect. And I agree. We're in business together.
Your face is going off this screen.
We're in business together to the extent that we're married. That doesn't mean that, your hand is on the same set of tasks that mine are, or even that you might have a functioning role within the specifics of the business. But if one of you is building the business, it really helps to see it as you're being supported, you're being helped, and you really couldn't do what you do the way that you do, to the extent that you do, as well as you do it, if you didn't have your spouse there to help and support. So in that sense, you are building the business together.
Thank you for clarifying that. With that being said, we're going to wrap this all up. And for those of you who missed the announcement, we have actually already created, and we're still doing some more resources, free resources, downloads on systems, dealing with profitability systems, productivity systems. If you are a married entrepreneur or desiring to be one, and you're in the process of launching, growing, or scaling your business, whether you're doing that together as far as working in the business together, or one is supporting the other while you're doing that, and you're desiring some systems on implementing to streamline the business as well as support your marriage, we got something for you. So just drop the word systems in the comments below, and we will get those over to you, or you can drop it in our DMs as well, and we'll find out which one works best for you based on where you are, what you need, and we got you covered. Like, what you need, we got you. What you need, we got you. Okay. Until next time, next week, same time, same place. Lord willing.
Yep.
And until next time, keep living
purposefully,
powerfully,
and profitably
In sync. All right. Peace out, y'all. We need to get some closeout music though, for real, next time.